I want to talk for just a couple minutes about ad hominem fallacies because I find that the ascription, the judgment of ad hominem is often misplaced. So it's important to be clear on precisely what is an ad hominem. So an ad hominem simply refers to an attack on the man or an attack on the person. And the idea is that it is illegitimate, it's logically fallacious to reject an argument by critiquing the person making the argument, by criticizing the individual. So to give a kind of an obvious example or a bald example, if I offer an argument for the truth of theism or something like that, and then the person responds and says, "Your glasses are stupid," well, that would be an ad hominem fallacy. But not every criticism of the individual, rather than the argument, is an illegitimate ad hominem or a logical fallacy. It all depends on whether the criticism of the individual is a legitimate criticism. One way to make a legitimate criticism is to point out that a person lacks the credentials or the background or the knowledge to have an informed insight or to have a reliable insight about the subject matter in question. This would be an example of providing an undercutting defeater. Now, a defeater is an objection, a reason to not to accept the claim made by an individual. And you can think about two different kinds of defeaters. So there are rebutting defeaters. And what a rebutting defeater does is it shows that the claim an individual has made is false. The other kind of defeater is an undercutting defeater. And an undercutting defeater simply undermines the basis to believe that the claim is true. So it's not actually showing that what the person has said is false, but it's showing that you lack a ground or basis or justification to believe what the person said is true. So what we're talking about here is an undercutting defeater and related to a critique of the individual making a claim. So for example, if I said, oh, I've got back pain, and my buddy starts opining on what he thinks caused the back pain, he may be correct and he may not. But if I say, why are you offering a diagnosis on my back pain? You're not a doctor. You're a carpenter. That is a critique of the individual rather than his claim, his truth claim, or his arguments, whatever they may be for his truth claim. It's a critique on the individual. But it's not an illegitimate ad hominem fallacy because I'm pointing out that the individual lacks the basis to make the claim in question. And so I think one of the points that we often have to keep in mind is that when people do make claims, and that includes claims in the humanities, right? That includes claims in philosophy or in theology or in some other field, that quite often that individual may be making claims that they're simply not equipped to make. It doesn't show that what they've said is false, but it may be legitimate in some circumstances to point out that they lack the background knowledge or the credentialing in order to make reliable assessments about the subject matter in question. And so it's just something to keep in mind that not every critique of an individual is an example of an ad hominem fallacy. Sometimes you're providing a legitimate basis to undercut their authority to make the argument in question. And that's something that you always want to keep in mind.